Hey guys, welcome to Pistons Talk Podcast Postgame show. If you stayed up for this game on this West Coast trip, what a game. What a game. We're going to get into it. We're going to break down the quarters, kind of go over some key points of the game, kind of discuss it with you guys. But man, this team just does not quit. This team just is gritty. They fight, they claw until that clock hits 00. But let's kind of get into the first quarter for your Detroit Pistons. Now, this first quarter was a game where, or not a game, this first quarter for the Pistons and the Kings, neither team really wanted to play defense. It kind of just felt like the end of the Lakers game in the fourth quarter where they're just exchanging baskets, and that's exactly what happened. Both the Kings and the Pistons weren't playing defense whatsoever. Pistons shot 12 out of 23 from the field in the first quarter. The Kings shot 12 out of 19 from the field in the first quarter. Pistons made 6 out of 9 threes. Kings made 5 out of 9 threes. So you guys can kind of understand what I'm saying in terms of like just the first quarter for the Pistons and the Kings. No one really played defense. I do want to give one player credit, though, in the first quarter that I was really impressed with. Cade Cunningham, obviously, 12 points, led all scores in the first. Jaden Ivey had 8. But Paul Reed, man, Paul Reed, I swear, these past couple of games, more often than not, he's been consistent. He made 2 key defensive plays. There's one that it's still just kind of living in my head rent-free. He blitzed a Kings player off the three-point line. They make a stop. They go down. I believe Jaden Ivey passes Paul Reed the ball, and Paul Reed finds an open Malik Beasley in the corner from 3. Like, he just does things so well. Doesn't really make too many mental errors or mistakes, but I've been just like really impressed with Paul Reed tonight. So happy that, he is getting some minutes. Obviously, it does suck that Isaiah Stewart is injured. I'd like to see him back eventually, but really happy to see Paul Reed get his shine and get his minutes. But to end the first quarter, the Kings do have a 3-point lead, 37-34. Going into the second quarter, I felt like we had just too many empty possessions offensively. The first 2 quarters, I just felt like the Pistons themselves were getting good looks. It's just we weren't capitalizing on any of the looks that we're getting. Like, we were not making shots in the second quarter. And I thought the perimeter defense was really bad in the second quarter. But that's all I really wrote. Just, too many empty possessions, and the defense on the perimeter I thought was bad. Kings have a 68-53 lead heading in the halftime. Coming out of the second quarter and going into the third quarter, the Kings came out really aggressive. This was a 19-point lead, believe it or not, at one point in this game. And the Kings came out aggressive, and they were trying to look to put this game away. But the Pistons were making stops. So I will say the third and the fourth quarter, I felt like the Pistons just decided to lock in and try to get back into this game. They were making defensive stops, but they really weren't scoring. They really didn't start heating up until around the 5-minute mark in the third quarter. Malik Beasley, up until that point, was struggling to find his shot. He hit one, then he hit another, then he started finding his groove. Marcus Sasser got some time. Want to give him a shout out. He had some timely shots, played some good defense, I thought. And the bench unit really chipped away at this lead to try to get the Pistons, back into this game to end the third quarter. Kings still have a 14-point lead, 91-77. Now, the fourth quarter, man, like, this team, man, I'm so proud that this team just does not give up. They could have just said, hey, tonight's not our night. Let's focus on Denver this weekend. But that's not what they did. They just, made stops, kept the lead like around anywhere from 9 to 12 points. And the right players got hot at the right time. Malik Beasley hit some crucial 3-point shots down the stretch to get them to the game. I really liked how we got to the free throw line in the fourth quarter. Kate got to the free throw line a lot. Jaden Ivey, man, The fact that Jaden Ivey not only made that 3-point shot, but he was smart enough to use the rules to his advantage, put his body into the defender. The 3-point shot goes in, you tie the game, and he ices it to give the Pistons a 1-point lead and the game 114-113. Into just the fourth quarter battle, the Pistons won 31-15 to end the game. Like, so proud of this team. Tonight felt like a game for the first maybe 35 minutes or so that the Kings were just going to win this game, but the Pistons locked in, had some good defensive stops, and Malik Beasley, Jaden Ivey, Cade Cunningham, Paul Reed, just a collective group effort tonight got them this win. It is 3 wins in a row, and I also want to say it's our 14th win of the season. And if you guys know, if you're a Piston fan watching this or listening to this, we won 14 games all last season in 82 attempts. We're 30 or so games in, and we just got our 14th win. This team is on pace to win 30 plus games this season. You just have to tip your cap to JB Bickerstaff for getting these guys to buy in and compete on a night-to-night basis. And you got to give credit to Trajan Langdon for signing guys like a THJ, a Malik Beasley. Tobias Harris obviously has been struggling, but I kind of feel like his veteran presence out there is just it's just a calming presence for these young guys to have a player like that to go to, kind of like a security blanket, if you will. But really proud of these guys. Something about playing on West Coast trips, they always play really tight competitive games. You beat Phoenix, you beat the Lakers, and you just beat the Kings. Really like what I'm seeing out of this group. We're going to get into comments and questions, but we have to hear from our sponsors over at the Draft Kings Sportsbook, and we'll be right back after this quick message, you guys. You guys, I have to tell you about today's sponsor for this podcast, Draft Kings. It's the most wonderful time of year for getting in on all of the hoops, football, and hockey action at Draft Kings Sportsbook. In the season of giving, we're being gifted college football, college basketball, the NFL, the NBA, and the NHL almost 24/7. And here's a gift for all new customers. Bet $5, get $150 in bonus bets if your bet wins. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app and use code Pistons Talk. That's code Pistons Talk for new customers to get $150 in bonus bets if your bet wins when you bet just $5, you guys. Happy holidays from DraftKings. The crown is yours. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER in New York. Call 1-877-8-HOPNY or text HOPNY 467-369. In Connecticut, help is available for problem gambling. Call 1-888-78-977 or visit ccp.org. Please play responsibly. On behalf of the Boot Hill Casino Resort, Kansas, 21 plus age and eligibility varies by jurisdiction. Void in New Hampshire, Oregon, Ontario. Bonus bets expire 168 hours after issuance. For additional terms and responsible gambling resources, see dkng.com/bball. Okay, guys, we are back after that quick commercial break from DraftKings. Want to give them a shout out and thank them for sponsoring not only this YouTube channel, but this podcast. Before we kind of get into questions and answers with you guys, I want to give a shout out to Adam Perry, who just became a member of Pistons Talk. Shout out to you, Adam. We're going to be doing some special stuff for memberships. We're going to be doing some giveaways, ticket giveaways, jersey giveaways in the future very soon. But so if you guys do want to become a Pistons Talk member, definitely check it out. There'll definitely be some perks for you guys that do want to be a member. But if not, don't want to pressure you guys. You still want to support the channel by just, hitting a thumbs up on these videos, commenting, and just leave any constructive criticism for myself. But let's get into the comments and questions part of the podcast. This comes from Mr. Longitude. Shout out to him. I feel like I see him on almost every one of these podcasts that we do. It says, it's just no way we're supposed to win this game. No, I mean, like if you looked and you watched this game, it felt like a game that Sacramento was going to win. Um, they were really hitting their shots. I felt like at times they were out rebounding us. Their shots were falling. You weren't going to hold De'Aaron Fox all night. He's just too good of a player. Trey Lyles, former Piston, just went absolutely berserk, and I feel like that's my fault. If you guys follow me on Twitter, you can definitely kind of probably get the joke. But yeah, man, like games like tonight, obviously not the prettiest win, but at the end of the day, a win's a win. And that does help the Detroit Pistons in the Eastern Conference standings. But yeah, there's no way we probably should have won this game. Just some really clutch shooting from Malik Beasley and Jaden Ivey tonight. Give a shout out to my guy, Jay Hart. He said, I told you I smelled something brewing. First 3-game win streak in I don't know how long Detroit basketball. I do remember that. I will give you a shout out. I believe it was, I think the Phoenix game when we won. You said, I feel like we're going to go on a winning streak. I want to give you your flowers and your kudos, Jay Hart. You were one of the ones in the comment section on one of those podcasts that we did have recently saying, I feel like there's going to be a win streak coming. I feel something in the making. So want to give you your flowers for calling that, because I wasn't really sure how they would do against, the Phoenixes, the LAs, even the Sacramentos. But hey, man, I'm happy. 3-win streak, 3-game win streak, 14th win of the season. Vibes over here are just immaculate, man. Like I love it. I had a comment from Mr. Ray. B-ball Paul continues to prove my eye for talent is not going anywhere. Love that move at the time and love it now. I was with you, Mr. Ray. Like when I got the notification this summer that 76ers had to waive him because they didn't have the money to keep him, obviously, because they wanted to make bigger moves in free agency. And Trajan and the Pistons just kind of got him on waivers. I was like, oh, like that's a guy that can give the Pistons some good minutes. And I think he's done such an incredible job filling in for Isaiah Stewart, playing the backup center role. And like there was just so many moments tonight where he just made good defensive plays. He had a really nice block shot in the game tonight as well. But I just love his presence out there. His passing, I think, kind of gets underrated in a sense, but really happy with B-ball Paul. And I just hope, and I know we're going off topic, I hope when Isaiah Stewart comes back, he doesn't just get sent down to the bench as a third string center. I think what Paul Reed is showing you is you need to have a longer leash in terms of rotation minutes. I believe he needs to be in the rotation on a night-to-night basis. If Duren doesn't have it that night, throw Paul Reed in there and have Isaiah Stewart out there. I like Jalen Duren. I like the potential, but there are some nights defensively that I just can't defend, and I really like what I'm seeing out of Paul Reed on both ends of the floor. Dominique Davis, have not seen you in a while, my guy. I hope you're doing well. He says defense kicked up the second Asar and Reed came in the first half. Yeah, it's just something about Ron Holland or Asar Thompson and Paul Reed. Like having those guys off your bench, I think is such a luxury for JB. But Paul Reed just continues to impress me with his switchability. Just kind of being like that anchor out there for the bench unit. And then Asar, man, I felt like this was a quiet game for Asar, but his defense was definitely noticeable. He was switching, going for loose balls, crashing the glass so the Pistons could secure the rebounds. But really like what I saw out of both of them. But more Paul Reed. I probably wrote so many Paul Reed notes in my game notes tonight that it just probably looks like a thesis for Paul Reed. Ryan Boseman, shout out to you, man. Do you think Beasley will command something similar to Caruso? He's definitely a placeholder on this team. Great question, Ryan. As always, I appreciate the support, brother. I think Beasley will definitely command more than $6 million. I'll say that. If you're the Pistons, do you do like 3 for 40 to see if that gets it done? I feel like Beasley likes it here. He had a quote in a couple of games ago that said like he feels like Detroit is his second home. And I feel like Beasley likes playing for the Pistons because JB and this organization just let him be himself. Like they're letting him shoot high volume threes night in and night out. I feel like he's a player that the Pistons need to retain because he's just so important. If he doesn't go on the heater tonight, I don't think the Pistons win this basketball game. We needed each and every one of these 3-point shots that he made. Some nights it's Malik Beasley, other nights it's Tim Hardaway Jr. But these vets have just shown how crucial they are and why veterans are important. But I think 3 for 40 is probably the ballpark for Beasley. I could understand if you want to pay him a little bit more because you never know if there's other teams out there that might try to outbid you for Malik Beasley. Obviously, the Pistons can't extend him because he only signed a 1-year deal, and you can't do that because of contract negotiations. And I'm not gonna like go down that rabbit hole with you guys, but obviously the Pistons can't extend him because of the 1-year deal he signed. But I'd be okay with like 3 for 40, 3 for 45, something like around that ballpark. Mr. Longitude, we really need to get some perimeter defenders, or we really need to do better on the. I'm assuming you mean closeouts and rotations. I feel like Asar is still getting in shape in terms of his perimeter defense because he was probably one of the better perimeter defenders last year. And obviously he had blood clots, and that's probably why his defense on the perimeter hasn't been as great as it was last season. But I do agree with you. I think Cade has taken a step in progression defensively. He was really getting into Keegan Murray's chest tonight. Even he had multiple possessions where he was guarding Fox or even DeMar DeRozan for that matter. But I do agree with you. I think we need more consistent defense and better closeouts, especially on the perimeter. I feel like every time we play a team, they have like their best shooting night from 3, and it's not just like a game or two. It feels like every game we play, a team just gets red hot from 3. But I'm sure that's something that JB and the coaching staff is working with these guys on. It's really hard to kind of do that when you're on the road and you don't have too many practices to clean that stuff up. But I do agree with you. Mario Washington, this team is here and we're playing together. It's amazing. I agree, man. Like that's all we really want from the Detroit Pistons. We're not thinking this team can go out and win 50 games and win an NBA championship, but it steps in the right direction. You just had one of your worst seasons last year where you had 14 wins. You just got your 14th win of the season on December 26th. It's obviously December 27th as I'm recording this video because the game started at 10 o'clock at night. But you guys get what I'm saying. Like, this is just such a great sign that the Pistons are trending in the right direction. And JB Bickerstaff is getting these guys to believe in themselves. And I'm just going to say this. This might be a hot take. If the Detroit Pistons have more than 33 wins to end the season, JB Bickerstaff's name needs to be in Coach of the Year. It just does, because nobody thought the Pistons were going to win more than 26, 25 games. He's just got these boys playing good ball, and I love to see it. I really love to see it. Question: when is the last time we won 3 games in a row? That is a good question. I would probably assume Cade's rookie year. I don't want to give you false information, but I'm pretty sure we had maybe a 3-game win streak then. I could be wrong, though. No doubt. Appreciate you. Good vibes tonight. Toss you a couple bucks. I appreciate you, Adam. I really do. I really do. I appreciate each and every one of you guys watching. I got 162 of you guys watching at 1:30 at night. So appreciate all you guys. Detroit basketball, got Ashton the trainer. And here, they laughed at me. Hey, Ashton, people on Twitter are trolls, man. I know. You were saying 6 seed. And, they keep winning. They had some talent at the deadline. I don't think you're too far off, man. The bottom of the East, even like the 6th seed, I think is obtainable if you keep putting good games together. They're a little bit more consistent. I believe, but really good to see this club play good basketball at the end of the day. 2022, okay, so it was during 2021, 2022 season was the last time the Detroit Pistons won 3 games in a row. So it's been 3 years. Yeah, I knew it was a minute. I know we've had a lot of games where it's been rough to be a fan. It's been really hard for me to come up here and try to spin positivity for you guys, but I try my best. Anytime we do these live stream podcasts or just, our long form podcast on the weekend, but really like what I'm seeing out of just everyone on this team. I got a question from Quinn. I want to put it on the screen. When do you think we'll see East Bay Cade? Man still has bounce, but refuses to use it in a flashy way. I wouldn't say he refuses to use it. When I watch Cade, I watch him in a different lens after talking to a lot of reporters. The way Cade plays, it's very strategic. Cade knows where he wants to go, but he's not going to overexert too much energy. I will say, Cade has had a lot of posters this year, a lot of posters. And I'm waiting for him just to have one of those posters where it's on ESPN, because he definitely just has sneaky bounce. 7 Mile B, shout out. Do you think we will keep Tobias after the trade deadline? That's a great question, 7 Mile B. I do. And the reason why I think that is not to say that the Pistons couldn't just go out and trade him. They could trade him for trading him if they wanted to. But I believe it's the organization wants to keep Tobias here because he's a pillar for the young guys. I know when you look at the box scores with Tobias, I can pull it up right now. I'm pretty sure he had a pretty bad game again tonight. But Tobias Harris is a veteran. And I feel like he's just a good security blanket, for these young guys. And it might not show up in the box score. It might be, off the court. We're pulling up Tobias Harris's box score. Yeah, 4 points, 1 of 7 from the field. Yeah, you're going to need more out of Tobias Harris than 4 points. But at the end of the day, I see a lot of you guys getting very frustrated with Tobias Harris with his performances, and I get it. I understand it. But I think what Tobias offers is just a veteran out there that can kind of calm the storm. Nights like tonight, they're down 19 plus points. Just him being out there for them kind of is a security blanket. I know I keep repeating myself, but that's what I kind of feel like he is. You can give him the ball if you want to take some pressure off the young guys, but I just don't see the organization pulling the trigger on a Tobias Harris, just for the fact that the organization really wanted Tobias. This is even before Trajan got the job or accepted the job. The organization wanted Tobias Harris to come here. And unless they just get an offer that they can't refuse, I feel like no one's untouchable at the end of the day, but I'd be very surprised if they moved him again. Got a question from Evan. Do you think we'll hit 500 at some point this season? I think it's a possibility. By January 11th, Raptors game. I don't have the schedule pulled up in front of me, Evan, but I can pull up the schedule if I go on ESPN right quick. Let me look. So if I look at the Detroit Pistons schedule right now, I know they have Denver this weekend. And after Denver, they have Orlando, which, even though it's going to be at home, Orlando is still playing good ball. You have Charlotte, which I feel like that's going to be a trap game just because Charlotte seems to have our number. That's at home. You have Minnesota, good team this year after Anthony Edwards called them out. You have them at home, and then you have the Blazers at home. I mean, the schedule is a little weaker in terms of competition, but I feel like they will flirt with a 500 record, Evan. I just don't know if it'll be by the Raptors game. I feel like the Magic game and the Hornets game going into next week are going to be games for me where, like, if they beat the Magic, maybe I'd sit up here and say, yeah, they'll get to a 500 record. But they're just playing good ball. The fact that we're asking questions, do you think that we can, have a 500 record by January? I mean, like last year, we were talking about top 5 prospects in December because the season was basically over. But it's good to see questions like this in the chat. Appreciate you guys. What security does Tobias provide? It's just having a veteran out there, Tenzin. It's not so much when you look at the box score, like 4 points tonight. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about when Tobias is out there, it's just having a veteran to rely on. Like last year, our vets were Alec Burks and Bojan Bogdanovic. And I know I'm going completely off topic. No shot at them. But they weren't veterans that really impacted winning. They were getting their shots, going home, and not being involved with these guys. There's a lot of stuff that we don't see off the court. I don't see off the court. You guys don't see off the court unless you work for the Detroit Pistons. He does a lot of things with the young guys, with Jaden Ivey, with Ron Holland, with Asar Thompson. That's the security blanket that I'm talking about. Obviously, we want Tobias Harris to be more productive when he's out there playing games. He's a lot older since the last time he was on the Detroit Pistons in 2016. And he's regressed significantly. But, he had games before he hurt his thumb where he was starting to put it together. Don't know if his thumb is still hurting him or it's just a consistency thing with him. But that's what I was talking about in terms of like security blanket. Just having one of those guys that you can go to, on or off the court. But at the end of the day, I don't want to, rag on Tobias too hard. I feel like he's been as advertised with these young guys, just kind of taking them under their wing. I think the NBA community will invalidate our progress because the East looks super weak to start the season. I don't think so. No. Because if you look at a lot of the games that we've won, we've done it against some of the, good teams in the East. I mean, you beat Miami. Like Miami, I know this is like completely off topic. Miami fans are literally circling their calendar for the Detroit Pistons because we've beaten them 2 times, and the way we've beaten them, it's been bad, Johnny. You beat the Lakers, you beat the Suns, you beat the Kings, you beat the Lakers twice, actually. I don't think that the NBA community will say, well, the Pistons are in the East, the Eastern Conference this week. Absolutely not. I'm sure you guys remember the first 10 or so games that the Pistons played. That was just a terrible schedule. It's probably one of the hardest schedules I've seen the Pistons go through. I felt like for the first, 30 or so games, they've been competitive for maybe 28 of those games. I feel like the Memphis and the Knicks game were the only 2 where I could really point to and say, you know what, they just didn't have it that night. But overall, really like what I'm seeing out of them. I don't think they'll try to say that, the East is weak. Like, we're not going to give the Pistons any type of recognition because of that. I think they've had a really tough schedule. They've played good basketball, and the games that they've won have been impressive. Like going into New York and dominating New York, obviously they didn't have Cat that night, but they still won. Going into Indiana in an in-season tournament and just completely dominating them when Indiana was in the Eastern Conference Finals last year, that's an accomplishment. I think this team definitely will get some media recognition. Every day I scrolling up my phone, it's Cade Cunningham stuff every day. Like Cade Cunningham is getting the love and the support that he deserves, not only from us as Pistons fans, but outside media. Giving Cade more praise. And you guys, if you're watching this right now, vote for Cade Cunningham for the All-Star game. Like, vote him in as an All-Star. He deserves it. One thing I think as Pistons fans we can do is vote for Cade Cunningham to become an All-Star this year. He's just having a career across the board. He looks like a franchise player. Really, really aggressive tonight, like what I saw out of him and everyone else on this team. But like, I voted for Cade. My mom voted for Cade, but she doesn't know it. Like, I made an account. Like, honestly, man, like I want to see Cade make the an All-Star team this year. I really, really do. But to kind of answer your question, Johnny, I don't really see the NBA kind of just like saying like, I don't feel that the Pistons deserve national love because they're in the East and it's weak competition. I just don't. I don't see that. Looks like Cade got the star whistle this game. Does this continue, especially with knowing Cade's relationship with the whistle? Great question, Quinn. I've noticed it, especially on this road trip. Cade is starting to get that benefit of the doubt whistle, which I think he deserves. I really do. To me, I think Cade Cunningham at least should be getting to the free throw line 8 times a game. He gets hacked enough. He gets fouled enough. Do I think that it will continue? Yes. If Cade keeps putting up the numbers that he's putting up, officials around the league see what these guys are doing night in and night out. Believe it or not, officials watch a lot of basketball when they're not officiating. So, because they're trying to get better as officials, they're going to start giving Cade a superstar whistle because he's one of the best players in the Eastern Conference. You could argue he's one of the best point guards in the Eastern Conference. That's a debate. But I think he will start to get that superstar whistle just because he's been more aggressive. I thought tonight, this is probably the most aggressive I've seen him taking the ball to the basket. Like, if Cade wants to get to the free throw line a good 8 to 10 times, you got to be really aggressive. You have to force the officials' hands to give you those free throws. But I think over time, he's going to get that superstar treatment. But I think this year, I really like what I'm seeing out of Cade just overall on both ends of the floor. We'll do a couple more questions and then we'll probably wrap this podcast up, you guys. I did see a question from 7 Mile B. I want to put on the screen. Do you think we should increase Reed's minutes? He had a good show tonight. Yeah, I do, 7 Mile B. I'm not going to go as extreme as our friend Bryce Simon from the Pistons Pulse, where he said he would start Reed and have Stewart off the bench and have Duran kind of watch from the bench for a few games. But I do think Paul Reed should at least be getting 10 to 15 minutes a night. I know that's easier said than done, but there are nights where Jalen Duran defensively just isn't locked in. I think in those nights where you feel that he just doesn't have it, those are Paul Reed minutes to me. I think he's earned it. I think Isaiah Stewart being out has shown a lot of Pistons fans what he's capable of if you didn't get chances to watch him with the Philadelphia 76ers. But I think so. He's earned the minutes. He's played hard on both ends of the floor. I really, really like what I'm seeing out of Paul Reed. That's why I was really high on him when the Pistons did, sign him this past summer. Let's immediately give Bobby Klitman all of Tobias's minutes. I think Bobby will play. I know Tobias is going through a little slump right now, but I think the goal for the Pistons is to either have Asar, Ron Holland, or Bobby Klitman take over his role when his contract is expired, Mr. My City. And then when you look at the box score, it's not really great with Tobias, but we've kind of talked about like what he brings more than just as a basketball player, as just a mentor for these young guys. But can't wait to see Bobby Clipman's debut with the Pistons. Dwayne Casey, one of the better nights for some time. Appreciate yourself for sticking with the squad. Doesn't go unnoticed. These young guys will only continue to get better. Keep pushing out, Dwayne. I don't know if that's the real Dwayne Casey, but I did meet Dwayne Casey one time, and he damn near broke my hand when he shook it. I'll have to show you guys the picture. When I worked at Woodward Sports, he came into the studio and shook my hand. Talked to him for a little bit. Really nice guy. Like, I'm happy that the Pistons gave him a job to work in the organization. I do appreciate that. I want to stick with this team when they're winning and losing. As you guys know, we've been doing these post-game podcasts all season long with wins and with losses. I just don't want to be up here with you guys with the good times. I want to be up here with the bad times too. Like, if they lose a game, I want us to talk about it as fans. Maybe, it's a therapy session. You guys can let it out, your frustrations with the game. But I want to do these all season with you guys. I want to do all 82 games. And maybe if the Pistons keep playing well, we do these during the playoffs too. If this is or isn't Dwayne Casey, have my respect as a coach and just a good human being. But I like Dwayne Casey as a coach. I just felt like he got a raw deal. Like, you had Blake for 1 year and you make the playoffs, you win 41 games, and they decide to rebuild. I thought that was kind of like a shit deal. But obviously the Pistons did have to rebuild because that core itself was just, I felt like they kind of like hit their ceiling even before Dwayne took the job. Understand Van Gundy, they were just kind of aiming for 8 seeds and they were kind of capped out. They couldn't really go after the big name free agents or make any trades because a lot of teams just didn't want the assets that we had. But I know those Van Gundy years, like the 2015-16 roster when they won 44 games, I really liked that team. Shout out to Blake. Toy said on one knee against the Bucks. Like Blake Griffin doesn't get enough credit as a Piston. Always had my respect as a fan, just going out there and competing. Like, he didn't have to. Like, he basically decided to play on one knee and ended his basketball career short. I think he could have just said like, "Hey, I'm not good to play." But I do want to wrap up this podcast, you guys. It is almost 2 a.m. but had over 166 of you in this live stream, so I do appreciate you guys. We'll see you a couple times this weekend. We'll see you on the Denver Nuggets post-game podcast, and then we'll see you on Sunday. We're going to have Eric Vincent on, Detroit Pistons beat reporter for clutchpoints.com. Talk to him about just the games of the week, topics of the week, and give you guys some Detroit Pistons content this weekend so you guys can kind of, enjoy it. Because I know some of you guys like listening to podcasts more than once a week. I like making podcasts for you guys more than once a week. But hope you guys have a great night. And we'll see you guys next time. Peace.